Kiddushin Daf Yud Aleph are on the top line. So we were talking about on the previous Amud about the Kal V'chomer. Is it possible for a Arusa Bas Yisrael to eat Truma? So first we thought that that Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira held on the Deraisa level, but on the Derabanan level, he agreed that she wasn't allowed to eat Truma. Then there's another iteration, and then the third iteration was Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira even held on the Derabanan level because and he's not Choshesh L'Simpon, that maybe she would have some type of blemish which he would not want to marry her, and that he wouldn't know if he was Mekadesh with Bia, he would have seen her without her clothes on, so he would have noticed if there was any of these big mumim, a big blemish, and so that's called simpon. So what about an Eved? Because the Kal V'chomer was from Eved. If Eved, that Bia doesn't make the shifcha yours to eat truma, but Kesef makes her yours to eat truma. So an Isha, that a Bia is enough to make her yours, she should certainly eat truma when she's an Arusa. So Ben Bagwad Simpon Bavadem Leisle. Ben Bagwag doesn't hold that there's a problem of simpon, of finding one of these blemishes with an evet. If it's a visible, that some type of disfigurement or something, you could see. If it's on the part of the body that's clothed, what does it matter? He's your evet. You're not married to them. You only need him to do the work. It doesn't matter if he has some blemish, that he can still do his work. So nimtza ganav okuvustus. Nimtza ganav okuvustus. Igio my. What if the Eved ends up being a thief, or kuvustus? Igio, according to Rashi, it's a kidnapper, so it's a pretty bad person. According to Tosfos, kuvustus is a gambler. Amar listim izoyin onichtav l'malchos. Hano kala islo. If they're an armed robber, or the king has issued some type of warrant or death penalty for them, those have a call. So you know that if this Eved had a call that they were an armed robber or they're wanted by the government, they have a call. So you know not to buy them as a slave. But what about if it's a kavustus or a ganav? Which, by the way, in Pirkei Avos, marba avada, marba kshafa, and marba. So I mean, we already know that a lot of avodim aren't high moral character. So, what level of ganaf are we talking about here? So michdi bein lamar lo achla. It ends up whether according to Yehuda ben Beseira or ben Bagbag, she's not allowed to eat truma my beinahu. So what's the nafkamina? So the Gemara says kiba masar b'halach. So Rash, according to Tosos, these are only two reasons, even though it's three words, it's two reasons. Kibel is one and masar b'halach is another. Kibel is if he accepted the mumim, so then there's no simpon, but according to Ula's reason that she's not allowed to eat truma because, so if the problem is simpon, he may not go through with the chuppah because of this mum. So if he says, I'm going to marry her no matter what mum she has, so the fact that he was mekadesh her, we're sure that he's going to go on and conclude the kinyan with chuppah. There's no problem of simpon. But the problem of Ula, that she can't eat truma because she might give some of the truma to her siblings, that's still a problem. Then Masar B'halach is what if the father The halach makes more sense here for this situation. So I'll skip what Rashi says about Masar. If the shluchim of the father of the girl went with the shluchim of the husband while they're on the road, there could be a problem of simpon because if the guy hasn't met her and so maybe he'll find a moment he won't want to go through with the chuppah. So that could be a problem, but there's no problem of her giving truma to her siblings because they're on the road traveling and they're not with her and she's not with siblings. Two dots, Bekesef. Beishamai Omer Bedinar. My temai de Beishamai. What's the reason that you need a dinner, which is a significant amount to be Makadosh a woman? Reb Zera Shekenisha Makpedes Alatzma. Ve'emis Gayashas Vachas Medinar. The women have self-confidence and they won't become married for less than that amount of money. Amarle Abaye Elamiata Gagon Banse de Rav Yanai de Captain on Avshev Lamakacha Bachas Betukrafta de Dinri. Hachanami the Pashta Yada Bekibla Chad Zuza Meachat. Hachanami de Lo have a Kiddushin. According to that, what about the daughters of Rav Yanai? They held themselves very high regard and they wouldn't take Kiddushin unless there was like a barrel full of dinrim. Or 3 bushels, 3 kabim worth of dinrim. So also, if she would have stuck it out her hand and take a zuz from someone, it shouldn't be Kiddushin, because we know that they, even if she would accept it, we know that their family trade, they all take a lot of money to be Mekadesh. I'm not talking about when she stuck out her hand and accepted it, because if she accepted it, maybe she accepted it. It sounds like she is accepting it and she's willing to be married for that. Ki kamina de kitcha balayla inami dishav shliach. No, what I'm saying is if she was mekadesh with night, so she couldn't see exactly how much money it was, or that it was through a shliach. So maybe the shliach, she had a shliach to receive kiddushin on her behalf, but maybe the shliach didn't know all of her shitas and would have accepted an amount that wasn't enough for her. Rav Yosef Amar Tamar de Beishamak Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Asi. Rav Yosef says the reason Beishamak is like Rav Yehuda Amar Asi, Damar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Asi, Kol Kesef Amar Batar Kesef Turi, Shal Deram Kesef Medina. Because any kesef, money that's written in the Torah, it has to be minted coins that are actually worth, I think, 8 times more than the regular circulating kesef. But if it's only kesef d'Rabbanan, it is kesef Medina. So they hold that it's a bigger amount because they hold that any amount of money that's written in the Torah has to be the more valuable currency. 2 dots, 3 lines up from the bottom. So now we're going to investigate this claim that kesef that's in the Torah has to be this more valuable currency, and if it's only made abundant, it's less valuable. And that's the rule. But if someone says, if there's a shvuah of moda b'miktas, so someone says you owe me X, and he says I don't owe you anything. There's no shvuah. If he says I owe you part of it, then he takes a shvuah because he agrees that he owes part of it. So diksiv ki tenisher el kesef okilim lishmor. The pasuk says in Mishpatim, when a man gives to his fellow silver or vessels to guard. But Tanan, we learned in a mission Shavuos hadayanim hataina shtei kesef avodah shavapruta. That when the Dayana may impose a shvuah, so he was claiming 2 silver, a value of 2 silvers, and he admits that he had at least a shavapruta. So there, it's a diaraisa shvuah. There's 3 shvuahs that are diaraisa. The mnemonic is shmash and mamayan. Shvuahs motiv miktas. Shvuas Eidos, if someone is trying to compel someone to give Eidos for his behalf, and that's in Parshas Vayikra, and Shvuas Shomrim. So Pruta is clearly a Durabanan level, a Durabanan Pruta. So how could you say any kesef that's written in the Torah is kesef Tsuri? So Hasam Dum to Kalim. No, there, even though it says Kesef, because it's written juxtaposed to Kalim, we could have a limud. Ma Kalim Shnayim Av Kesef Shnayim. Just like Kalim is plural, so the minimum plural is 2. So when it says Kesef, it needs to be 2 silvers. Uma Kesef Davar Chashav Av Kalim Davar Chashav. And just like Kesef has to be important, so the Kalim has to be something that's important. So when we say important, Rashi says it's excluding the opinion of, let's say, he says, I lent you 2 needles. Now, sewing needle or whatever, it's not worth very much. And if he says, well, you let me 1, so according to that opinion, so the 2 needles are certainly not worth two kasef. And even though it's kalim, each one is a needle, and each needle is a kali by itself, but it's not a davar chashav. Very meiser. What about meiser sheni? That if you wanted to, you didn't want to bring your meiser sheni to Yerushalayim, so you transferred the kedusha to money. The pasuk says in Re'eh v'tzarta kesef b'yadecha. So you took the money in your hand, v'tnan, but it said in the Mishnah haporit sala mimos meiser sheni kesef sheni kesef haporit sala mimos meiser sheni. So you were trying to make change or whatever, or you're either breaking up a money or combining smaller coins into bigger coins. But whatever I think you're combining smaller coins into a bigger coin. Instead of having to take a big sack full of smaller coins, you have one bigger coin that's more valuable. So Rashi says that whatever it is, we found that you were selling your fruit or whatever it was for Meiser Sheni with copper prutos, and now you want to combine them, you get a big silver coin instead of having, hundreds and hundreds or however many of these pruto coins. So we see, even according to Beis Shammai, you were able to use little prutos to transfer the kedusha from your Meiser Sheni produce to the money. The money has to be valuable money according to Beis Shammai because it's written kesef in the Torah. So kesef ha-kesef riba. So because it says it's hard to ha-kesef, so ha-kesef includes even money that would, I guess, be only mirabanan money. It could take the kedusha for Meiser Sheni. What about hektish? It says you'll give the money and it'll go to him. You're redeeming something from hektish. Shmuel says if the hektish was shava a large amount of money, but you had redeemed it and made it chol again, chulin, through a shava pruta mechulo, it is no longer owned by hektish. It's only a pruta according to Beis Shammai. It would need to be a dinar. Hasamnami kesef yalafi meiser. So we learn a gzera shava from meiser that just like meiser could be even kesef medina, so too for hektish should be kesef medina. V'harei kiddusha isha diksiv kigachish isha. What about kiddushin? Because when a man takes a woman, ubala v'gamer kicha mi stay afron, and we learn a limud from stay afron that it's with money. V'tanan beis hillel omer bepruta v'shava pruta. And we learned in a Mishnah, our Mishnah, the Beis Hillel says that it's only pruta shava pruta. Namer of Asi, the Amar Beis Shammai. So it seems that Rav Asi's opinion that any money that's written in the Torah is there's more valuable money. It seems that would only work out according to Beis Shammai. Why would Rav Asi make a statement according to Beis Shammai? We don't pass like Beis Shammai. So if they made a statement, this is what they must have said. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav Asi, kol kesef katuv Amar b'Torah kesef tzur v'shal devrim kesef medina. If there's a set amount of money in the Torah, that has to be the more valuable currency. But if it's only midrabanan, then it could be the circulating currency. My kamash malan. So what's that teaching us? Tanina, because we learned in Bechoros, chamesh shlem shel ben, the 5 shkalim to do pigeon aben from a coin. Shloshim shel eved. If your axe gores and kills an eved and you pay a flat 30 shekel payment to the owner for killing the eved, chamishim shel ones shamafata, or the 50 shekel that a rapist or a seducer has to pay the father of the Nara. Mea Motzi Shemra, the 100 shekel of a Motzi Shemra, Kulam b'shekel HaKodesh b'manatsuri. So they will all have to be the holy shekel, the big weight, and the more valuable coins, currency. But if it's money of the that Chazal said, not that the Torah, then it could be the less valuable money. So that's what it needs to teach us, that these payments of the diraisa payments of 5 shekel, 30 shekel, 50 shekel, 100 shekel are the more valuable money. The Lotnan, because is it not written in a mission Bavakama and in Bechora, if you make a big noise right next to a person, you give him a salah, so you didn't actually physically injure him because you didn't make physical contact with him. So Rashi brings down two shitas. Rabbeinu Halevi, he says it seems that you made a noise outside his ear, but Rabbeinu Hazakin says, I assume Rabbeinu Hazakin is Rabbeinu Leopold or Leonid, whatever Professor Chaim Salvation calls him, the shadowy, because we know very little about him historically, but you hit him by his ear. So Atokea is either you made a noise and you startled him, or you hit him by his ear. No sin lo sela. V'lo tema my sela arba zuzeh. We don't say that a sela means 4 zuz. Ela my sela palga de zuz. It's only half a zuz because it's 1/8 of the value of the kesef tzuri. So 1/8 of 4 is a half. Davidi inche de karla palga de zuza istaria, because some people call half a zuz an istaria. Istira. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Amar Tameo de Beishamai Kedechizkiya. Rabbi Shimon Reish Lakish says the reason of Beishamai is not because Kesef D'Oraisa is the more valuable coin, but it's because of a reason of teaching of Chizkiya. The Amar Chizkiya, Amar Krava Hefta. So Chizkiya says, the pasuk says by Amar Ivriya Vehefta Lo Niftasa Ochushon Nitanlev, she wasn't redeemed. Malami Shemigras Mipijana V'Yotza teaches us that an Amma Ivriya can be, she can pay off the remaining amount. Let's say if she was sold for 600 zuz or whatever, so and she worked for 3 years, so someone could pay 300 zuz on her behalf and she'll go free. If she was sold for a dinar, there's a lot of money, so until there's 1 pruta left, she could be redeemed. But if the father only would have sold her for a pruta, you can't go any less than a pruta. So how could she be redeemed? And since she's being sold, maybe she was sold for only a pruta. And if you want to say the Torah is saying if you sold her for a dinar so that the amount can be reduced, she could be redeemed. But if he was only sold for a pruta, she cannot be redeemed. We couldn't have think that that's possible because it's similar to yud of an amma ivriya. As we go to yud beis and aleph, ma yud afagav di boy miyad bi boy lo miyad kol hechad lo matzi miyad lo havuz vina zvine hachinami kol hechad lo matzi migra lo havuz vina zvine. Because it has to be similar to yud. Just like yud, there has to be a possibility of yud. If he wants to be miyad her, then they're married. If he doesn't want to be miyad her, she goes free. But if there was no possibility of yud, the sale couldn't take place here also. So unless there's a possibility of her to pay off some type of remaining work that she owes, so instead of working her whole term, she could pay as the money gets reduced according to the time she works. So we see that the hefte, so she has to have been sold for an amount that was more than just a pruta, because otherwise the sale couldn't take place. The sale has to take place in a way that there's a possibility of her paying off some of what she the rest of her term.